Hello everybody, welcome back to the breakdown. I'm Tone. It's fantastic to have you joining me on yet another one of my videos. Now tonight I just so happen to be wearing this shirt on an evening where I have come across some information I didn't know, and I think that we really do need to focus on a lot of things, and I think some people I know and plenty of others I don't know may be gaining some experience in just how important it is to be focusing on what's going on around them. I understand. Look, I completely understand that our lives require micro focus. You know, we've got to look at the micro around where we are, because our lives day to day require focus on the things that matter close to home, right? The job, business, and all those sorts of things. But as I've advocated for quite a long time on my channel, that's all great. That's necessary focus, okay? However, in order to be able to fully implement the things that you need to do in a longer time frame, with business, with life in general, you need to have some form of focus on the macro, okay? You've got to be aware of what's going on outside of your control, okay? In order to be able to be in a position to control the things that you can control to the best of your ability, you also need to be able to prepare for the things that are going to happen despite your best efforts. You can't have any hope of controlling these things other than pray about it and hope that God intervenes in the way that he sees fit, so that we don't have to deal with some of what is potentially coming. But you can't control the macro. But being aware of it and preparing for it in the best way that you can, that you can do. So let's get to the point of the video now. It's come to my attention that the Australian government is going to bring into law, they're going to go through with the legislative process to end live exports. Now, that's come as a shock to many, and there's a lot of pushback over it, and rightfully so. However, I get the idea that there's a lack of focus on the macro for those that didn't see this type of thing coming. Now, I've never spoken directly about live export or any of those things because, well, that's not something that I was focusing on. However, it falls into what I have been focusing on. And that is, for anyone that's been asleep, there is an attack on the way of life around the world on farmers and farming. Okay, look at all the farming protests. Well, again, we don't get to see it in the mass media, do we? So we need to focus. We need to take time to focus on the things that are happening in the macro, right? Around the world, not here yet. Okay? But there is a concerted effort and an attack on the farming way of life. And it's much, much bigger than ending live exports. Or, well, we've had some certain weather events, haven't we? I mean, these sorts of things that get listed or labelled as conspiracy or conspiracy theory. And then at some point, you know, and the period of time between conspiracy theory and, oh, actually it's not, it's fact, that period of time is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Now, we've got countries, I can't list them off for you right now, but it wouldn't take more than a couple of minutes of a Google search to find out the countries that have been affected by law changes, and therefore the farmers have gone and done protests. And now what? We've got protests going on in Australia because of this new, oh my gosh, there's going to be live export ban. Okay, we hear nothing about, oh wow, let's have a bit of a think about the strange weather events that happened in November, or a particular weather guy that I follow who said that was going to occur the middle of November, and pretty much to the day it did. Accident, or, you know, so we need to be focusing on the people that have got a pretty clear idea of what's going on, because they're also looking at the macro, right? And they're bringing it to the attention of those that are really only focusing on the micro. So it shouldn't be a shock to anybody that's awake that a live export ban has been brought to Australia. Now, the specific thing of live export, well, that what I'm getting at is it shouldn't be a surprise that these types of things are beginning to come here, because they've already been successful in bringing it to other parts of the world. Not necessarily live export, but other things that impact on the farming way of life. Okay, now this video is specifically about farming, but we could go and talk about the cost of living and, you know, all sorts of things, the inflation and that I've talked about in the past. These things are not accidental. Okay, they're not just byproducts of, oh, well, this decision didn't work out so well. Okay, it's time to stop thinking that it was just a mismanaged thing that didn't go quite right, and oh my gosh, now we've got this dire effect. It's a plan. Okay? Plain and simple, it's a plan. But the conspiracy, the people that just like to use the conspiracy theorist mantra are going to just palm it off and go, look, this is an isolated thing and it's not related in any way, and stop scaremongering. Okay, whatever floats your boat, all right? But this is just another one of the things that comes along in a long chain of events that are going to continue. So push back against it if you must. And you should. Don't just lie down and take it. But don't be surprised if the pushback that you're laying down doesn't change anything. Alright? I'm not saying don't. Okay? What I am saying is, if you do, and it doesn't get the result you want, understand that there's a reason why. Because especially if you fight back against it and it doesn't have the effect that you want it to have, then you're going to know the reason why. Because in the past, protests often have gotten the result that the protesters wanted. So why would this case be different if it is different? So, for anyone that doesn't know, I come from a farming background, okay? I farmed for quite a number of years, and I grew up on a farm. So farming is dear to my heart, even though I moved away from farming. Why? Well, because it took a lot of time. I wasn't exceptionally good at it, because even though I have no economics degree, economics and in small part political stuff is far more in my wheelhouse. And I know a lot of the stuff that I know now from my own research, my own learning, and I wouldn't have had the time to do all of that if I was focusing on that which I didn't really want to do, but did do just because of extenuating circumstances in the past. But so the purpose of this video really is to touch base with those which I know are going to be hurting from these types of things, but to really make it clear that this is not an accident. It's not the last thing that's going to come to bear against farming and farmers. The process is just beginning. You're going to face weather events you couldn't have foreseen being possible. You're going to be told that it's because of global warming. But you're also going to see that areas are affected while other areas aren't. And you are going to find that there are people out there, one in particular, who's able to predict it and tell you that it's going to happen, while the mass media and the mass media version of the weather forecasting can't even string together any real amount of information that's even worth reading or listening to anymore. Okay? And none of that's by accident. Okay? None of it's by accident. It's all part of a plan. Okay? And I'm hoping, okay, as hard as this is to take, I'm hoping it's waking people up. It's time to wake up if you're not already awake. It's time to focus, okay? It really is. It's time to focus on the things you can't affect, the things that you can't change, and prepare for it. All right? Adapt. Adapt, adapt, adapt. That's the only way forward from here. And anyone who hasn't already been adapting in some way, you're a bit behind the 8 ball. Gonna have to lift your game and get onto it. Okay, so this is a message to all farmers. Be aware, there is a concerted effort. They are against you. Okay, they are against the food supply. It's not a conspiracy theory. And before long, you're gonna see that it isn't. It hasn't been for a long time either. And God be with us all, okay? So it's not scaremongering. Do your own research. Get a bit of perspective. Focus on what you can do about it. And until next time, God bless you. And I'll see you in the next videos.